On February 28, 2026, the world changed in an instant. US and Israeli airstrikes on Iran killed Supreme Leader Ali Khamenei, triggering a catastrophic chain reaction that no one was truly prepared for. It was the spark that ignited a global powder keg. Iran's response was immediate and calculated. They didn't launch a counterstrike on a city. They targeted the jugular of the global economy, the Strait of Hormuz, a move they had threatened for over 40 years. So what exactly is the Strait of Hormuz? It's an ancient, narrow waterway connecting the Persian Gulf to the open ocean. At its narrowest point, it's just 33 kilometers wide, a physical bottleneck that has dictated global power for centuries. Iran responded by closing a narrow strip of water, just 33 kilometers wide, that carries 20% of the world's oil and gas. The current conflict didn't emerge in a vacuum. It's the culmination of decades of sanctions, the collapse of nuclear agreements, and a fierce regional rivalry between Tehran and its neighbors, all coming to a head in the early months of 2026. Years of failed diplomacy and broken promises left both sides with few options. When the strikes hit, the Hormuz option was the only leverage Iran had left to exert its influence and exact a devastating price on the West. Within 72 hours, oil prices surged past $120 a barrel. The largest supply disruption in global history had begun. The Philippines declared an energy emergency. Brent crude approached $170. This isn't just a news story, it's a fundamental breakdown of the systems we rely on for everything from transportation to heating. Governments across the globe were forced to make impossible choices: rations, emergencies, and the sudden realization that the era of cheap, reliable energy had come to a violent, abrupt end in a 33-kilometer stretch of water. The Strait of Hormuz is the only sea exit for Kuwait, Iraq, Qatar, and the UAE. There is no viable maritime alternative. Before the crisis, over 20% of global seaborne oil and LNG passed through here daily. That's 20 million barrels every single day. Asia is the most exposed. China alone receives 1/3 of its total oil imports through this single, precarious waterway. The impact wasn't just on oil. The entire maritime supply chain for the region was severed. Goods were stranded, contracts were voided, and the cost of doing business globally skyrocketed in a matter of hours. The world spent 50 years warning about this choke point and approximately 0 years adequately preparing for its actual closure. We were content with the warning, but ignored the necessity of a backup plan. On March 2nd, the IRGC began issuing warnings. Passage was no longer allowed. The threat was finally being realized. Iran launched 21 attacks on merchant ships and laid sea mines. Insurance rates for transit exploded by 4 to 6 times in a week. By March 2nd, tanker tracking showed near-total traffic collapse. 10 million barrels per day were instantly removed from global markets. The silence in the strait was followed by a roar in the financial markets. The sudden removal of 10% of global oil supply sent shockwaves that threatened to topple even the most stable economies. The aftershocks are still being felt. It wasn't just oil. Iran struck desalination plants, threatening the drinking water for 99% of Kuwait and Qatar. This was no longer just an energy crisis. It was a burgeoning humanitarian disaster. Previous shocks disrupted 5% of supply. This closure disrupted 20%. This is a different category of global crisis. Analysts warned of $200 oil. The Dallas Fed modeled a global GDP drop of nearly 3% if the closure continued. The most vulnerable were hit first. In nations already struggling with inflation, the surge in energy prices pushed millions into extreme poverty. The economic forecast isn't just gloomy, it's terrifying for the global south. So, how does this hit your daily life? US gas prices hit $4 by late March, a 30% increase in weeks. But it doesn't stop at the pump. Everything you buy is more expensive because it costs more to move it. Food security followed. 70% of food imports to Gulf states were disrupted, causing prices to spike by up to 120%. The disruption hit fertilizer production. This threatens the Northern Hemisphere's planting season, meaning higher food prices into 2027. From the bread on your table to the electronics in your pocket, every single link in the global supply chain is under immense strain. The true cost of the 2026 crisis will be measured in years, not months. This isn't just an energy crisis. It's a test of the global order. China, dependent on the strait for 90% of its energy, is at a crossroads. Will they intervene, or will they use this to reshape the world in their favor? But there's a new player in this crisis: artificial intelligence. From AI-driven autonomous patrol drones to the rapid-fire trading algorithms that crashed the energy markets in milliseconds, this is the first true AI-accelerated global conflict. The machines are making decisions faster than the diplomats. Autonomous systems on both sides are monitoring every movement in the strait. The margin for error is razor-thin when the response is handled by algorithms. One glitch, one miscalculation by an AI could lead to an unintended escalation. On April 7th, Russia and China vetoed a UN resolution to ensure safety in the strait, calling it biased against Iran. Trump warned China to share the military burden or lose its US summit. He threatened to obliterate Iranian power plants if it didn't reopen. Then, on April 8th, a breakthrough. A 2-week ceasefire was announced. Iran agreed to reopen the strait to commercial shipping. The world let out a collective breath, but was it a sign of peace or just a tactical pause? But a ceasefire is not a resolution. It's a pause. No agreement exists on Iran's nuclear program or its underlying regional goals. If the strait closes again, our reserves will only last about 100 days. And unlike oil, there are no global reserves for LNG or fertilizer. The infrastructure of our world is built on a foundation of stable energy. If that foundation is pulled away again, the collapse will be swifter and more absolute. The question isn't if there will be another crisis, but when, and if we'll be any better prepared. The world knew this was the single most critical choke point. Why was there no contingency plan? The system is more fragile than we imagined. We've seen behind the curtain, and what we found was a world held together by a 33-kilometer thread. Subscribe to Dark Codex AI. We cover the crises the media explains but never investigates. Tell me in the comments, will this ceasefire hold, or is this just the eye of the storm? I'm Sofia. Keep questioning. Keep watching the shadows.